Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Bela, for the invitation. I hope, should I do something to have the slide? No, it comes automatically. Fine. Excellent. So my original idea was to explore during the lecture my short synopsis in a partly spectacular, partly didactic, demonstrative way, using one of the well-known tools of the internet during the whole lecture, which is directly related to the topic, the life of the dead web, and it is the Google Translate. The idea was to translate the English to Hungarian and vice versa, and during the process of the lecture, the ruins of the language could make perceivable the ruins of the web. But I had to give it up, so this changed. One reason was because I realized that there is no simple English in Google Translate, and also that it would be not very entertaining and too complex. And the other reason, I also realized that in this time frame, I shall not be able to explore all the details what was planned. You know, it's always essential to think on the medium of time and space, and maybe one cannot write an essay on Twitter, as I do not use it, I am not sure. So I changed my mind. If the time is short, the best solution is to share it and make it even shorter. So I show you illustrations of the draft or a skeleton of a longer lecture, and at the end there will be a surprise. Therefore, it is an expanded lecture, like expanded cinema. However, at some slides, the original idea remained visible. All the highlighted blue, light blue text are Google Translates. 2 years before the New York Times article came out, Tim Berners-Lee also published a text in The Guardian on this topic. This was not as detailed and not as strategic, if I may say so, as the recent one in the New York Times, where there are even propositions, a downloadable contract in this recent last November article. So propositions, and the contract of the web is accessible and contains 9 principles. It said that the web was designed to bring people together and make knowledge freely available, etc. The 3 principles for the government, 3 for the companies, and 3 for the citizens, not people. In my synopsis, I put up 4 questions. The first 2 are quite easy, as the answer is most probably yes. Of course, there are some arguments, partly visual, partly a kind of quick collection, result of some quick surf, searching the contemporary discourse on our topic. Bruce Sterling's Dead Media was also mentioned in the keynote text by Wolfgang Ernst for this symposium, where he used this nice term, post-historical endurance, which I like very much. So it is about a special type of museology. And while surfing, I realized that from the well-known triangle, the Carpe Diem, Tempus Fugit, the Memento Mori line is the strongest nowadays. There is an article as early as 2010 in the Wired, and a lot of statistics which helps, even in visual form, to explore more this argument. The book, originally in French, but with the help of the Institute of Network Culture Amsterdam, came out in 2014, which speaks about the ends of the internet. It's downloadable as all the books of this fantastic institute. There was a Leonardo call by Roger Malina in this context as well, after the internet, and other proposals what we can do when the web is dying. Most recent is also from the Institute of Network Culture, this Eternal Network, the Ends and Becomings of Network Culture, which is related to the last Transmediale end-to-end exhibition. The Württembergische Kunstverein exhibition will open on the 29th of February. The dead are not dead. And the last Efflux journal, with the title Art After Culture, contains articles, for example, in which the Angel of Death also appears. And for sure, the short surf should hint to historical items to the Internet of Things in the 19th century, and now also in Chinatown, which was highlighted by a new text in the Journal of Democracy by Francis Fukuyama, where he overviewed the 30 years of world politics, and in the context of the internet, he made a distinction between the Chinese and the Western situation. And last but not least, How Democracies Die, which also quoted by Fukuyama, just came out. And some of us should maybe remember the fact that it was 30 years ago when Fukuyama's essay and then the book, The End of History, was published. So the same author made a kind of revision in this new article. And our program is also part of this discourse, the dead web. Asking at this point the Google about 7 deadly sins, this came out. Wikipedia was more helpful, of course. And as a surprise, I realized that all the 3 allegoric pictures which I presented earlier in this lecture was related to one of that 7 deadly sins, acedia. Acedia is also here, and also here describes the behavior, and melancholy suggests the emotion. So there is a kind of discovery, random discovery in surfing. Of course, it is not always evident how we read these surf items, these screenshots, the best friend of the archaeologist. It is not only in connection with reading, but reading happens sometimes visually, and in case if we think that the web is dead, then while we use, we should see some ruins, in case if we do not experience it, it is either because we are blind or because these are virtual ruins hiding and covering the real. At this point, it worth also to mention the very difficult word truth in the age of alternative facts, and also not to forget that there are other actors in the scene, not only Acedia, Fama and Rumor, for example, and Bugia and Verita, for example, are also in the picture, not only allegorically. So the four questions which I have in the synopsis contains a very complex one, and the last one, which has a kind of poetic nature. If we intend to describe it in English, I should say that it's a rhetorical one. And however, we all know that if a question can be put at all, then it can also be answered, but Wittgenstein forget to tell us who is the one who can answer such questions. As if we remember the nice Laurie Anderson song when she sings that only an expert can deal with the question, we should think on that when we are talking about artists, for example. So the question in the synopsis where I ask what is the artist's position can be answered maybe the best way if we ask the artist herself or himself. And by fortune, the author of the book Transparent Act and the participant of our exhibition with this piece, Brigitta Zich, is here. And at this point, we are in that lucky situation that we can ask her to speak about her position as an artist. So, thank you, and please, Brigitta, come.